Remington Podcast, where we take a deep dive into all things ammunition. I'm your host, Audrey Mays, and today I'm sitting down with research and development engineer Leland Mason.
How's it going, guys?
We're here to talk to you about a new product called Wheelgun 22. Obviously, Leland, it's optimized for wheel guns, but can you walk us through
Really?
Great name.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through what exactly are the types of wheel guns?
Yeah, like what is a wheel gun?
Right, exactly.
So, wheel gun is just kind of a colloquial name for revolver, right?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you can shoot this in things that are not revolvers, but that was the intent, right? So a couple things about revolvers that are noteworthy as far as, details we'd look at in development are revolvers are obviously, they're not semi-automatic, right? There are a very small number of semi-automatic revolvers. Totally different thing. Not even rimfire. Forget I ever said that. But they don't require a cartridge to cycle the action to work, right? So that kind of unlocks a new realm that you can get into with really, really low pressure cartridges, right? Which Wheelgun is, and we'll explain what that is and why we did that. But you've got a revolving cylinder. And the most notable feature is you have a cylinder gap, right? So like in between the barrel and the cylinder, you have to have a gap for the cylinder to rotate, right? There's a SAMI spec on that. Of course, a revolver is going to have specifications to keep that within a certain range. But regardless of that range, because there's a gap, you're going to bleed off pressure. It's with anything, right? From, 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum to, 22 short. You're going to lose pressure, gas, and a little bit of velocity also. But to the shooter, one of the noteworthy details that you're going to gain is increased noise, right? It's just louder. You shoot a revolver, especially a shorter barreled revolver, you're going to get that really high-pitched crack, even if it's a subsonic round. So, you have subsonic rounds at sea level. It is pretty standard that your speed of sound is roughly 1,080 feet per second, right? So the closer you get to that speed of sound, the closer you're going to get to that sound, right? In order to get a true supersonic crack, you have to be above that. You have to break the sound barrier. But the faster that it goes, typically the louder it's going to get. The bullet's trying to cut through the air faster. I'm not going to say that the sound is necessarily directly equivalent to the speed, though, in that a lot of it has to do with the muzzle pressure.
Okay.
So that's typically what you hear, right? Like, shotguns are notorious for being very loud. Right?
Yeah.
They're fairly low pressure cartridges, but the volume is very large, right? You've got rifles, really, really, really fast rifles. Like if you ever shot a 223, right? It sounds completely different. And to a shotgun shooter, they're probably even a little bit louder in most cases, right? Depending on barrel length, there's different things that goes into that, of course, if you got a muzzle brake and all that. But a lot of it has to do with muzzle pressure. You've got a really, really high pressure escaping that muzzle as that bullet shooting. So tying it back to wheel gun, in order to minimize that as low or as much as possible, you just drop the velocity more. And of course, we formulate our powder charges and our load development and bullet weight and heel profile and all that stuff to give you as the shooter a very, very, very low report or sound that you get when you shoot it.
Yeah.
And of course, going out of a revolver, it's going to even have to be optimized more so because of
that gap.
Yeah, right.
That makes the sound louder generally.
Right. So when you shoot a wheel gun versus even our subsonic, they're both subsonic, but the wheel gun's going to be quieter, right? Like I said, powder charge, totally different. The way it's manufactured and the load development that goes into it's different than subsonic. Of course, with it being optimized for a revolver, and like I said, you unlocking that, you no longer have the need to actually cycle the gun. You can go into that round or that realm where you can get away with these lower velocity, lower sound cartridges. So something about wheel gun that's specifically optimized for those revolvers also, while we're talking about revolvers,
right,
is the profile. So of course you've got, which I have our little model, 3D printed model here, but something that is, something noteworthy, at least in shooting revolvers that are specifically single action. So that's, your most common single action style is going to be the, traditional like 1873 Colt, where, if anybody shot one, to load it, you've got to open the loading port on the side. The cylinder does not swing out on a crane, and you've got to index the cylinder and stick the round in. Sometimes, with 22s specifically, because they're so tiny, it's not super intuitive to do it like it is with the big 45 Colt. It's simple to just throw in there and drop it,
Yeah.
But with our profile, we, kind of look back at our heritage truncated cone profile. So you've got a tapered, smaller surface front end. So that helps it, it gives you a little bit smaller area to stick into that cylinder, but also, rimfire round, specifically 22 long rifle, is going to be a heeled bullet. So you've got your upper ogive portion, you've got the larger shoulder, and then it drops down to a heel that fits inside the case. And that's why a 22 long rifle has the same diameter bullet as the case.
Okay.
So when you do that, you have that sharp edge typically that you get with that shoulder. Well, similar to ranch hand, we reworked a few things so that we actually chamfered off that front edge as well. And ranch hand, it was designed to optimize feeding in chambers.
In semi-automatics.
Right. You got all kinds of sharp edges in some of these guns. That's very difficult, and that gets hung up on them. We have data to prove that. But with Wheelgun, you've got the tapered truncated cone and that chamfered edge, which just makes it even that much more simple. Less things to get hung up on. You can just load your gun up quick and go back to shooting it. So that was the intent with that. And, because of that profile, it feeds well through repeating firearms. So think, of course, going back to the cowboy lineage, lever actions, which are very popular. Number of companies have come out with new 22 long rifle chambered lever actions in the past couple of years, and increasingly so, because lever actions are cool.
Yeah, and fun to shoot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and bolt actions too. So, that's kind of the talking specifically about the platforms it's being used for. So, and then, of course, if you've got a double action revolver where you can swing the cylinder out, it's even that much more easy.
Yeah. So Wheelgun 22.
Yeah.
Quiet, low velocity.
Yep. Very low. So we're talking, sub 800 feet per second.
Okay. Very low.
Very, very low.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who, why?
Yeah. So,
who is this made for, and why would they shoot it? Yeah.
When you look at the 22 market, 22s are a very versatile cartridge.
Okay.
You have people that buy 22s because they're cheap. You can buy a lot of them in bulk, which we have multiple bulk offerings to choose from, and you can shoot them through all kinds of guns. You got pistols, revolvers, rifles, semi-automatics, whatever. But then you have people that try to eke the absolute most performance out of 22s, and there are products that are optimized for accuracy, extreme long range shooting, and really stretching the limits of that really old school cartridge. I mean, we're talking 22 long rifles, mid to late 1800s. So we're talking old school technology, but
so like almost the same variation as people who shoot rifles. You got like sporting people who use it for hunting, people use it for long range, people use it for plinking.
It would be even more so, I would argue, because you can't really put rifle rounds like a 308 in a pistol. You can do that with the 22, right? So if you could put a 308 in a pistol, that'd be kind of neat. But anyways,
well,
I'm sure that,
they have the 360 Buckhammer revolver.
That's right. So there's some ways that we're getting there, But right? So you're kind of talking about, versatility. But for 22, some people really like using 22s to kind of get people into shooting, right? Exposing new shooters or young shooters to shooting. 22s, of course, are going to have very negligible recoil, very, little to none. With Wheelgun, even more so. It's a heavier 39 grain bullet, but still super lightweight charge rather, and you're not going to get the momentum back into your hands. So, you want to take your grandson or granddaughter or your son or daughter or whatever out backyard to, shoot in your range at your home. If of course you're able to shoot at your home and, you want to expose them to shooting, revolvers or a pistol, or really specifically a repeating gun. You can do that with Wheelgun and have like a less report experience for that shooter.
Right. People, even people who are like recoil sensitive, and you
Yeah.
want to, you know, kind of train them out of that.
When I say wheel gun is quiet,
Mm-hmm.
I'll even add specifically out of fixed breech guns. Like you got your lever action, right? Rifle.
Mhm.
You shoot wheel gun out of it, it's quiet, quiet. So it's like, you know, very, very, very approachable for a new shooter. So that's one thing. And the other thing is it's just fun. Honest to God, that in the development that I've been involved with, wheelgun's one of my favorites to go out and actually test. You know, you've got handgun, rimfire, shotgun, rifle, all that stuff, everything considered. There's some, and I know anybody listening to this who's experienced subsonic 22, be it subsonic with the can, which of course wheelgun you can shoot with the can to even minimize that muzzle pressure even more. But you go out and shoot a really quiet 22 through your favorite repeating gun or revolver. It's fun.
It's so fun.
And
all you hear is the action go off.
Yeah, it's
awesome.
stupid. It really, honest to God, it gives you the same, you know, kind of feeling as shooting a machine gun. It's like that. Everybody says giggle factor.
Yeah, because
really, yeah, it's
like when you
it's
pull
so
the trigger.
stupid because it's so quiet. That's why I like it. And shooting cans, you know, 15, 20 yards. And, you know, and the aesthetic too, that was one of the things that we did with it's a lead bullet, it's waxed, the truncated cone's old school. Product management wanted something that literally you could wear your bandolier and put your rounds in it and it looked the part.
Yeah.
You're talking something that's very similar to a wad cutter, or old school, you know, swedged lead bullet or cast lead bullet. It's what it looks like. And, you know, a lot of people out there are buying the really kind of entry budget 22 revolvers. You know, think your Heritage Rough Riders, your Ruger Wranglers, and you know, there's more coming out too. And there's also a lot of wheel guns that are out there that are not, they're very expensive. So people, you know, go to big box stores and they like those guns. This is really the product that you buy that gun. It's a great price point, right? Very approachable for a lot of people too. You can buy your wheel gun to go with it and go shoot and have a great time. Just plinking. It's a plinking round.
Yeah.
It's super fun to plink with.
Plinking, maybe cowboy action shooting.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you wanted to go out and, you know, practice your draws or whatnot, if you shoot SAS or anything like that, yeah, I mean, it's great for that. And you got to think, you know, kind of comparatively, I'll even make this connection in that 45 Colt, which is your cowboy load, right? That was the Colt 1873. People, it wasn't originally, of course, chambered for that, but, you know, nowadays everybody goes for 45 Colt. Well, 45 Colt is a really heavy centerfire round that's going between, you know, 700 to 900 feet per second.
Yeah, I mean, the
Pretty
recoil.
similar.
Well, yeah. Speaking of uses, can you walk us through what gallery shooting is?
Yeah.
And why is that brought up whenever we bring up Wheelgun 22?
So gallery shooting, back in the day, and we're talking, you know, pre-1850, if you were very wealthy, it was not uncommon for you to have a gallery. So like, you know, think really big manors and kind of like, you know, even pre-Gilded Age, where people would go and they'd take what was then primarily the 22 BB. So it was literally a percussion cap with a lead ball stuck in the front of it. I don't think the BB had any powder at all. CB did. CB came later. It was BB, CB, short, long rifle. And long rifle might actually come before long. Anyways, no, doesn't matter. BB, they would take these powderless charges that were ridiculously slow and shoot them out of guns in their house. So it was that quiet that it was essentially like shooting a BB gun. And they would shoot it in a gallery with a target. And I mean, you got to think people are, you know, women are dressed in, you know, full gowns and dresses, and men are in top hats.
Yeah.
Is that what that's called?
The whole nine, hoop skirts,
the big
bustles.
metal thing. Yeah. And the guys had top hats and all that kind of stuff. And you're shooting gallery, you know, at galleries in people's houses at formal functions. So, you know, as time progressed, BB fell out of fashion. It's still around, but it's not used in the same way it is now. And 22 long rifle, which is still a very old cartridge, but much later than that. Very different profile. The bullet weight, the cartridge length, the case length, all of that.
Yeah.
Considered in the fact that it has a powder charge, it's not going to quite be like that. But at least in Remington's kind of lineup, this is the closest you're going to have to that. So you think also, late 1800s, people would go to county fairs or state fairs and you'd be shooting these gallery, rounds. Often they were 22 of some sort, and you're hitting targets and, you get points and you get your prize or whatever. And this is kind of similar to that. It still has a little bit of a purpose in that, you could use this at a longer range, whereas maybe something like that's a little bit more designed for something close just because it is a gallery. But it's the closest thing that we have to that right now. And, think again, going back to fun plinking, gallery shooting was made as entertainment.
Right.
It was plinking. That was the original plinking. So people bought that stuff to have fun with and just shoot targets and see who was the best marksman, offhand shooting, one-handed revolver shooting. And that's exactly what Wheelgun is optimized for. It's for pure enjoyment.
Yeah. And I could even see someone who does. Have you seen those horseback rider shooters who shoot the balloons?
Oh yeah,
yeah. I feel like this
Annie
would be
Oakley.
good for that.
Yeah. I feel like Annie Oakley probably would have been pretty cool. She would have liked this one. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So,
well,
anyways.
Yeah, it's a really cool new round. I know you've been working on it, and so I just wanted to bring you in here.
And it's we've released it at SHOT Show, but we're in the works of producing it, and we're excited to share it with all the customers who are looking to get some fun plinking. So
yeah, be looking out for it, guys. It's coming for you. There you have it, guys. Remington is on the rise. Like, comment, subscribe, and be sure to share this podcast with your hunting or shooting buddies. If you have any questions for me or Leland here, you can email us at podcast@remington.com. Thanks for listening.